Hey everyone, welcome to Dalton Draws, the series where the title tells you exactly what the show is. This is the finale of my series on Super Smash Bros. Today, I'll be drawing Sora from Kingdom Hearts, as well as redrawing some previous characters for the final version of the poster. Since this is the finale, I guess it's my last chance to say that I haven't played any of the games Sora is from. Though, there's a bit more to it than that this time. I'm pretty familiar with the first game. I watched someone play it as a kid, I've watched a Let's Play of it years ago, and I've seen a few speedruns. I also have some familiarity with the later games, but I haven't played them myself. I have interest in the series, I just never picked any of the games up. As a kid, I wasn't exactly in a position to buy every game I wanted, and I personally want to play the series in release order. I have been waiting for Square Enix to release 1.5 plus 2.5 on the Switch to finally give the series a chance. Since, personally I prefer to play RPGs on the system. But, unfortunately, the games are coming to the system as cloud versions, so there goes that hope. Oh well. I ended up getting the all-in-one package on PlayStation, but between the recent Animal Crossing DLC and Guardians of the Galaxy, I haven't had time to start it yet. So, despite never playing the games, I know just how popular of a choice he was. And how unlikely he was, considering how complicated the rights to the series are. Which, in case you were wondering, that's why I'm not playing any Kingdom Hearts music in this video. I would love to play some original songs from the games, but I also really like not getting copyright strikes on my videos. Still, the reveal trailer for Sora was so good, and a big part of that was the music. That orchestral version of the song is beautiful. Since I wanted to take my time with this finale, I made sure to try out Sora and see how he played. He's a fun character, for sure. His mobility in the air is wild, and it's interesting seeing how powerful he is despite being so light. He's fun, though I don't know if he's going to be one of my mains. I'm glad he's here, though. He was a great final pick. Oh my god, I'm looking at the script and I misspelled light and pick. What was going on when I wrote this? So that's it then, the final character I had to draw, right? Well, not quite. I debated drawing Doomslayer, but since he doesn't come with any music and his costume doesn't have similar proportions to his actual appearance, he doesn't fit my criteria for drawing Miis. Speaking of which, I just want to take a moment to clarify that criteria. I know it's a little bit more technical than I tend to get in these videos, but bear with me here. I have 3 rules and a DLC costume must fit at least 2 of them. They have to be a full model swap of the character, their proportions have to be mostly accurate to their original appearance, and they have to come with a music track. These are what I use to determine if a Mii should be added. Sans was the original example, being fairly accurate to his original design, a full model swap, and coming with Megalovania. Bomberman and Vault Boy both lacked music, but otherwise were accurate model swaps. You could make the argument that Shantae doesn't quite fit, but her proportions are fairly close to her half-genie hero design, and she came with a music track. There are a few others like Geno or Travis Touchdown that I would love to draw, but they don't fit the criteria. And while Doomslayer is a full swap, he doesn't fit the other 2 criteria. Anyways, that's it for this overly technical section. That costume is awesome, but I can't just include one because it looks cool. There's others I would love to include, but I'm not making exceptions. Believe me, it's super niche, but if I felt like I could include the Chibi Robo costume with the rest of these, I would draw it in a heartbeat. That was one of my most wanted characters. But it doesn't fit. I can't play favorites. I mean, I can't. It's my poster, but I'm not going to. I have to draw the line somewhere. I've also had people ask me about removing the Miis entirely. I've gone back and forth about it, but no, I don't think I will. Look, Mii Sword Fighter, Brawler, and Gunner are all fighters in the game. And I've included alternate costumes for other characters as long as they're a gender swap or they change who the character is. The Mii costumes I've included serve that same purpose. Anyways, that's enough of that. Now that Sora is done, it's time to make some final additions. First up, I'm adding in a suggestion that I've heard a few times over the years. Pikachu Libre technically should have been included. The game doesn't change the name, but I included other gender alts in the poster, and as Sakurai pointed out in the E3 2018 presentation, Pikachu Libre is a girl. I'm not going to include spiky-eared Pichu, however. It technically is a different Pichu, being one that was given out in an event in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, but I think its inclusion would just have people questioning why Pichu is in the poster twice. They're too similar. This one might be a surprise, but I'm adding Mr. Saturn. He's not a playable character, he doesn't appear in any attacks or taunts, but he is in the official mural for the game, so yeah. But just because those are the final additions, that doesn't mean the poster is done yet. There's a few drawings that have bugged me for a while, and I want to finally fix them up. Previously, I'd made some slight adjustments to my Palutena drawing, but these ones are being completely redrawn. First up, Link. Now, I actually really like the original drawing. I think it still holds up. So you might be wondering why it's being redrawn, right? Well, here's the thing. When I start these drawings, I use an image size of 1700 by 1700 pixels. For taller characters, I'll adjust the image size, and later on for more complex characters, I started increasing the resolution entirely. I wanted to maintain consistency in the line thickness and level of detail. But for the early drawings, I tried to stick to that canvas size without ever changing it. I did adjust it a little bit for Link, but not enough. The pose fits the dimensions of the image great, but he ends up being too small for the poster as a result. He's the only character in the final poster that is scaled up instead of down, because his illustration was just too small. So for this one, I basically just recreated the original image, but with a much larger canvas so that it would fit better in the final poster. But we're not done with the Links yet, because I also redrew Young Link. So for the original, I tried to draw him similarly to his official artwork for Ocarina of Time, but as a result, I feel like the proportions are off, especially compared to other human characters in the poster. So for this one, I took more inspiration from the Ocarina of Time manga that I was reading at the time. Of course, that's the phrase I'd go with. Anyways, I tried to make him look a little bit younger, a little more stylized. I also used my chalk brush instead of the pencil ones to get cleaner lines without changing the aesthetic. Oh, and I added Navi. Guess that's another addition to the poster. Everything I just said also applies to Leaf, aka the female version of Pokémon Trainer. The original drawing is fine, but I don't know, it didn't look enough like the actual character to me. For this version, I changed up the pose a bit and used official artwork for reference. There was some recent artwork for a figure of her that was very helpful in figuring out how to draw her properly. Leaf's always been one of my favorite Pokémon Trainer designs, and I wanted to make sure that she was well represented on the poster. I couldn't change up the line thickness too much on this one, as it had to match the style used for Red and the Pokémon. In fact, I kinda just ended up redrawing Red as well. In case you were wondering why this episode took so long to make, it's because of decisions like that. The scope of it kinda just got out of hand. Oops. I debated whether or not I needed to draw Cloud again. The original picture is fine, and I like the pose showing off the sword, but I don't know. As I've been playing Final Fantasy VII Remake, I'm realizing that the pose doesn't really capture his personality, so I decided to redraw him with a more fitting pose and expression. I also based the drawing on old artwork from the original version of the game, rather than just his in-game model. For these characters where I'm taking inspiration from official art, I'm still using the Smash Ultimate design overall. The official art just helps me to better stylize it for 2D. So, with Robin, I had drawn the male version facing forward and the female version with her back to the camera. Corrin was the inverse of that. But of all of the drawings in the poster, these two were probably the ones that I was the most unhappy with. This is going to come up a bit with the next few drawings, but I have a tendency to draw armor a bit more bulky than it actually is in-game. That's just my aesthetic for how I like to draw armor. But on Corrin, it just made the proportions look all wrong, and I hate the pose I used. She looks cautious, which I think is fitting for her personality in the game, but the pose itself just looks awkward. So for the redraw, I reworked the pose to look more noble. And honestly, that transformed one of my least favorite drawings of the poster to one of my favorites. As for male Corrin, I'll be totally blunt, this was like the most half-assed drawing of the entire poster. Even the other ones that I was unhappy with were at least drawn with intent. Here, I had Corrin's cape cover 90% of the pose because I didn't want to draw his overly complex armor. I've complained before about how the Fire Emblem characters are annoying to draw because of their armor, and Corrin's no exception. Unlike before, however, I used his in-game model as reference instead of screenshots. That's the great thing about working on these now that the game is out. I can just load it up on my Switch, set the system on my desk next to me, and use the Joy-Con to move the camera around. It's a great reference tool. I also used their 2D artwork from Fire Emblem Fates and Fire Emblem Heroes as reference for their faces specifically. Alright, one last Fire Emblem character, Chrom. Remember what I said about drawing armor to be too bulky? Well, there's a bit of that here, but the main issue is that I made his outfit too loose-fitting. In the actual games, Chrom is a fairly slim character, and my art didn't really reflect that. That's partially because his Smash render makes the sock boot thing on one of his legs look baggier than it actually is, so I ended up making it the same size as his pants, which are actually supposed to be baggy. I also adjusted the pose a bit, and I think this is a better representation of him, though I'm still not a fan of his design. The Fire Emblem cast often have needlessly complex designs, and Chrom is my go-to example for that. Like, why are his boot sock things different colors? Why does he only have one sleeve? What is with all of these strap-like designs on his pants? What is with all of these straps? Learn to wear a belt right, idiot! You think you got enough layers over this arm? I'm exaggerating a bit here. It does look cool overall, but it's these kinds of details that make the Fire Emblem character such a pain to draw for this poster. Well, you know, at least until the Aegis characters made them look simple by comparison. Alright, one last armor example. Here's Dark Samus. The original drawing isn't great. I think I leaned a little bit more into the monster elements to try and distinguish it from Samus, but in the end it just wasn't a good portrayal of the character. The armor was made way more bulky than it should have been, and the end result just looked like a generic armored shooter character. This new drawing adjusts the color scheme a bit, and uses a way more on-model design for the character. As a side note, I finally played through a Metroid game. It wasn't the one Dark Samus is from, but still, that's one more game off of the SmashToons has never played list. Dragon Quest is still the best example though, where I hadn't played a game in the series before drawing it, but now I've played a bunch of games in the series. I still haven't played a Persona game, but I do own a copy of Persona 5 Royal, and I've been playing through Tokyo Mirage Sessions. I'm also going to finally play Banjo-Kazooie when that releases on the Switch. And with that, every illustration is complete. Everyone is here. Man, that's surreal. I've been working on this project for 3 years now. The earliest finished illustration is Mario, who was drawn on October 14th, 2018. But before that, I had sketched out a very rough layout for the poster on August 8th, 2018. The bulk of the art for this poster was drawn between October 2018 and January 2019. I would set aside a few days just to draw the characters, and the goal was to draw as many as I could in a day. The simplest characters took like 30 minutes, while the more complex ones took up to 2 hours. I'd turn on OBS and record the process. Then I would write a simple script for each video, usually giving some very brief thoughts on the character. I talk about how they played, or my history with the character, you know the drill. The footage would then be sped up to match however long I was talking about them. Making the first few episodes was a lot of work, sure, but it wasn't too difficult, it was just time consuming. But things did get more difficult with the DLC. Suddenly, I was working on only a few characters at a time, while still having to do the same amount of editing work for each one. Since there were less characters, I needed to write longer scripts. Every character announced was, at a minimum, a full day of work for me. And I don't do YouTube as a job. I don't sell this poster, so it cuts into my actual job as a freelancer. I've debated whether or not to include a rant in this video where I vent about the stress and anxiety the project has caused me, how it's affected my ability to actually enjoy playing Smash Bros. I feel like it's important to acknowledge all of that in this section of the video. After all, this video series is about the process of making the poster, and that's part of it. But I don't want to harp on it too much, because at the end of the day, it's wild to see just how much this poster has grown from the original version. And with these final additions, everyone is finally here. Thanks for watching this video series. Tune in next time for something else. As always, I'm not going to sell prints of this poster or anything, but I will make it a free download on Patreon. You don't need to be a patron to download it, but if you like my work, you should consider supporting it on Patreon.